this is like being in a room with all your cousins, okay? So
You don't really want to go in there, do you? But okay.
excellence is something that is really, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, excellence. I mean, it sounds sexy. I mean, you know, who wouldn't strive for it? Who wouldn't want it? Who wouldn't want to be associated with it? But it's kind of like diet and exercise. It's easy to say and it's hard to do. And how do you push for that excellence consistently? Because I can say that the excellence that you've exhibited has been consistent. And how do you push for it in yourself, and how do you push for it in your teams and actually have them deliver?
Well, the first thing about excellence is you got to know what excellence looks like.
Okay.
So I've worked with a lot of producers who can deliver a movie on time and on budget, but couldn't tell you why this script works or why it doesn't work, or
Okay.
if it works at all. So you really have to know what the thing looks like so that when you find it, you can see it. For my company, God bless you, my company, it's all about, our mission is to tell every story, right? But underneath that, you know, our mission is also to provide content that has high artistic integrity. Now, because I'm an actor as well as a producer, I don't know everything, but I do know good story when I see it. I know an engaging tale. And so that's really, really, really important, I think, for producers. If your job and your mission is that you're not just going to be some tech guy who knows how to assemble a team, do the budget, find the location, oversee all of that. If you really want to go back to the place where the story, because for me, story is everything. Mm-hmm. I don't care who's associated with it. I don't care what actor's in it. I don't care anything. It has to begin with the story. If the story is good, then we can talk about it.
Now, you know, that's something that I tell members all the time, and anybody who asks me, you know, about producing, I say it always starts on the page. But that's not something that I think that I knew starting out. You know, that's something that I learned through lessons of experience. And so was that the same for you?
Well, no, because like I said, because I'm an actor, you know, I got an MFA in acting, so that means you read a lot of plays, you do a lot of plays, you do a lot of analysis, you do a lot of scene studies. So you break apart the material to know where the beats happen. You understand what the arc of the story is. You understand what the arc of the character is. You know by what page things should be heating up, and by what page things should be the race to the curtain. And so that's, I think, is what makes me a better creative producer, because I do understand story, and I get turned on by story. In fact, if someone told me a couple years ago, yeah, there's this company that's doing this film about Japanese cowboys in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they got cowboys in the Midwest, Japanese? I didn't know that. Okay. So then I was like, oh, I've never seen that before. Okay. My interest is piqued, you know what I mean? I literally get excited by fresh new stories. It's just, now, again, fresh new stories does not mean that you aren't writing a tale or producing or directing a tale that doesn't have universal themes. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, all films, all plays touch upon the same universal truths. Mm-hmm. It's really only the lens through which we focus that story. If it's, you know, a Puerto Rican dad in the Bronx, or, you know, a lesbian mom in Oakland, or whatever the case might be, those lenses change, and the lens to me is what makes a story interesting, a love story. Now, people just go out and do just great love stories, and the lens is not necessarily in my wheelhouse, which is to say it's about underrepresented communities, which is what we do. But I feel like you have to have a clear understanding of what the project is that you're doing. Because some people don't even, they don't know what they're writing. They don't know that this is a love story, or maybe they probably might if it's just a love story, but they don't know it's about a story of redemption, or they don't know it's a story about reconciliation, or they don't know if it's a story about, so until you know what the thing is, then you really, I couldn't shoot anything. I have a screenplay that I commissioned a friend of mine who's a wonderful playwright to write. Okay. And it didn't know what it wanted to be. It could have been a sci-fi, it could have been fantasy, it could have been a mystery, it could have been a horror, and it could have been a drama. So because it did not have a form of what it was, it couldn't follow the structure that certain genres require to be successful. Because as you know, like horror movies, for example, there is a very clear formula about writing a horror every horror film you will ever see, there is some red herring where it's like, oh, something's about to happen. And
Right.
it's, oh no, it's just a boy crossing the street. It's not a ghost. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You need to have those peppered throughout. So you have to know what the thing is to understand what it should be and judge whether or not it's accomplishing what it's supposed to do.
Okay, gotcha. So because of the fact that you were an actor and
Yes.
you were, you used that to inform your understanding of the story, what are those things that maybe you weren't prepared for when you started producing that acting didn't prepare you for?
Well, you know, I can tell you, my first film, I remember when that was done, I was like, well, that was an interesting experiment. I'll never do that again. Because that was just, I said, it can't be this hard.
And that was Night Catches Us,
That
right?
was Night Catches Us. It just can't be that hard.
Okay, well-
I mean, come on now.
No, it's hard.
It's hard.
Uh-huh.
But the thing is, every film can be hard for very different reasons.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Like, my second film was also challenging, but in a very different way than my first film. The first film, the director and producer, because I didn't know anything about producing. I literally bought a couple of books and was reading about producing, and that's great. But where you really learn is on the ground. That's when the shit is. That's when you know
Yes.
what your metal is made
Uh-huh.
of, and whether or not you can be a problem solver.
Okay.
And that's what you have to be. A good part of many things you have to be is you have to be a problem solver. But anyway, so the first film, there was a big blow up between the director and the producer who I was going to shadow and learn how to produce. It got so bad that she refused to let him come on set. She refused to talk to him on the phone. She would accept no emails or text messages. So he couldn't even be on set, nothing. So then I had to become
The producer.
producer.
On set.
Boom.
Uh-huh.
There you go. And so I would contact him and say, so listen, what's going on? Here's what I'm dealing with. What do you think about this and that? But then there are times where he wasn't available or whatever, so I had to produce, and it was very hard. But my point is that's a very different story than the second film that I made, where the second film, the problem was I was producing, and we had this producer who was on the project before I came on, so I joined the team. And the day we wrapped, she said, I don't know how this happened. I'm so sorry, but we're 30% over budget. We haven't even started post, and we've already spent all of post and more than we were supposed to spend. We had credit card debt. I'm like, whoa, wait, how's that? So that was a different story. But then you got to figure out how to get your way out of that. So I learned that here are my lessons I learned about being a producer. You got to think on your feet and know how to solve problems in real time, because the shit rolls up and it stops right at your doorstep.
Absolutely.
You need to have great communication and people skills.
Okay.
Because you have to communicate with actors and investors and directors and creatives and business people and folks that have a whole lot of ego and people who are trying to take advantage. You have to be able to understand and walk into a room and assess who's going to be your friend and who's going to try to undermine you, and you got to do that fast, right? You also, again, have to understand what good story is to know whether or not this thing is worthy of your time. Because who wants to spend time and then realize, well, the story was mediocre to begin with, so it's going to be at best a mediocre film. It might be a little bit better if you get the right director and the right actors. They can make something out of nothing, but that's not the way you want to be produced. I certainly don't. I think that you need to be, and I will say that no other job that I've ever had has used more of everything I've ever learned in my life, through every job, every degree, school, et cetera, et cetera. My marketing, which I think you should need to know, and I do know, finance, which you need to know, and I do know, you need to understand the specifics of technology to some degree, that you can hire someone to do that, because when you deliver a film, you're going to get this laundry list from your distributor that says we need 2-3 pages worth of deliverables, and it's like, we don't have no $50,000 to deliver all this. But the thing is, that's just what they send to everybody.
Exactly.
So you have to go through that list and kind of go, no, they don't need that, and no, we are not delivering that. And okay, no, not doing that either. So you have to be able to have an understanding of that. Mine is not great. I'm not good on deliverables, but I work with people who I can't keep that kind of minutiae details in my mind. So what are the other things that you need to know as a producer? People skills, analytical skills, because you have to deal with budgets.
Now let me ask you though. Now these skills, do you think that, okay, as a producer, either there's some people you have it or you don't? you know, or are these skills that you can develop and
No,
get?
I think you can absolutely
And
develop these skills.
how do you develop them?
I think that every producer should take a screenwriting or playwriting class.
Okay, gotcha.
Depending on what the genre is that you're creating.
Okay.
So you need to be able to understand, this is why this works. Okay, and so that you can understand story better. I would take an accounting class because you're gonna get a budget and you're gonna have to look at that and kind of go, oh, now where can I cut? Because we're always trying to cut the budget. Where can I cut out of this that won't impact the vision of the filmmaker? And you know, because taking an accounting class and a finance class will give you the ability to look at a spreadsheet, and even later on in life, if you're involved with another organization that has a spreadsheet, you need to be able to look at that and kind of go, I can judge the health of this organization by these numbers. And it's there if you know how to read it. Again, classes in writing. I think the best class that I took of my whole MBA program was a class called Managing Personal and Group Dynamics, something of that ilk. That I have used what I learned in that class every day since I graduated from that course.
Managing personal dynamics.
Managing interpersonal and group dynamics.
Okay, gotcha.
Interpersonal, that's what it was.
In what way?
In what way? Because, again, it helps you come into a room and understand, okay, so this is a pathological liar. Okay, we got that. Oh, yeah, she has no ego whatsoever. This one has all but everything, including ego. And so now, when you all thrown together in a project, it don't mean just because you throw people together, they're gonna get along, right?
No, it doesn't.
It means that, so then the producer has to grease the wheels.
Yes.
Like my first film, my leading man, we were shooting, I'm out at the video village looking at stuff, suddenly we say cut. My leading man is storming off past me, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Where is he going? We're not done.
Hello, right? So the director was, Anthony. He was not trying to hear her.
Oh my God.
There was nothing that she could say to
Okay.
him to appease what happened on set. So I had to say, well, let me talk to you. So I had to tell me what's going on, brother. Tell me what's going on. What's happening? So we talked it out, and blah, 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 blah. And then we said, I calmed him down. I understood, I heard him, because it's important to you as a producer. You know how you have to listen well.
Absolutely.
You have to listen, and you can't give bullshit responses to real questions. You know what I mean? If you got a serious problem, you have to think about that bitch and then come up with a reasonable response. So I talked to him, and then like the next day or 2 days later, my leading lady had a big blow up with her boyfriend, and she was just like in a tizzy and went home early and blah, 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 blah. So then I was like, oh, okay, so I sent her flowers and, you know, sent her a nice little note and let her know that I'm thinking about her and hope everything's well. And she came back and just the next day, that made all the difference. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. She started the work right all over again. There was no book that I could have read that said, send your leading lady flowers if her boyfriend pisses her off.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And so what happens when you have to actually make decisions where you got to cut people loose off the team?
Then you got to cut people loose.
Is
You
it?
can't have dead weight. You can't have no weight pulling you. It's hard enough to make a film.
Yes, it is.
You can't be having people drain your energy or drain your resources. If this person, I had to fire the producer from the second film. We had to fire, was it a sound? No, was it the first AD? I can't remember who I had to fire on that film. We had to also fire a PA, and they ain't even getting paid. But but again, you know, and we had to fire the editor because we were. I remember. I remember sitting in my basement. Now, again, this is my first film, so I've never seen a rough cut before in my life. I don't know what that is because I just see films. So I'm sitting downstairs in my den, and we're watching the movie go by, which is the first cut. And all I'm saying to myself as I'm watching this, we are so fucked.
Oh, wow.
We are so fucked. We are so fucked. Oh my God, I just wasted all. Now, first cuts are kind of like that. You know, the story is still trying, because if you don't know, editors are artists. I didn't appreciate that until I started producing. Our editor, Jamal Joseph, who was a friend of mine who used to be head of film department at Columbia, he said something that is so true. There's the film that you write, the film that you shoot, the film that you edit. And they may not be all the same thing, right? And so this editor that we had, we were like, so we could continue to work with him. And then, you should also have mentors if you can. If you can find a mentor, you know, who can help you when this stuff gets ugly, I would recommend that if it's at all possible. I haven't had any, but that's another source of another color too. So at any rate, the editor, we worked with him for months and months and months, and it just wasn't coming together. It just wasn't coming together. And then we were talking to Sundance because the screenwriter director had gone through the screenwriter's lab like 10 years before that. That's how long that film took to get made, 10 years. And so we were showing them cuts, you know, and they gave us feedback, and afterward they said, you know, we think you need a new editor. And I was like, oh God, that to me, it sounded really big. But I was like, this, what's happening is not coming forth. And after these weeks and weeks and weeks, you're not seeing the project develop the way you want to. We had to let him go. He did mostly television. We brought in this new editor. When I tell you that this movie came alive, I was like, oh, here, this is a movie. There we go. And that's when I said, editors are magicians and artists.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
they tell stories. So gotta let folks go to answer your question.
Okay, gotcha.
Cut dead weight as soon as you can. Don't wait around a month. Oh, let's see if they gotta work out. No, when you smell shit, throw the shit out.
I like that response. You looking for your water? Okay, gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about the balance between art and commercial viability, and how do you strike that balance? And what exactly is commercial viability? What is there a formula for it?
Remind me of the second question after I answer your first question.
Okay.
I didn't always know what was commercially viable. I just know that I love great story. So my first couple of films, though I'm very proud of all the work that I've done, certainly for the marketplace were not considered commercially viable. And that means that it is going to run across more than 15 screens domestically if you get a theatrical release. You know, someone's actually putting marketing dollars behind the project if you have a distributor.
Now, is that a definition? Somebody can go and Google, and that's the definition that'll come up?
No.
Commercially viable? That's just, okay, gotcha.
You asked me my
Okay,
opinion.
no, I just want to know. Can we
So,
Google that? Okay.
Well, here, let me tell you this. I don't know what kind of stories you all are writing, right?
Okay.
Maybe you're writing stories about Martians or whatever. But I will tell you that if you're writing stories about people that look like y'all and sit in this room, the chances are very good that people are going to say, well, see, that's going to be a difficult title because it just doesn't travel well overseas, you know? So, and what happens is that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because then buyers don't want to buy content of certain ilk. Unless, of course, the black or brown people are maids or butlers or being beaten or are beating people or killing, you know, then everybody loves that stuff. They didn't love, or a musical.
Okay.
But other than that, you know, you're going to run up against this pushback that says, well, like for my first film, it was referred to because everyone, no matter what film you shoot and how much you tell what this film is about through your press and you speak, this is a story of love and redemption and blah blah blah. Somebody's gonna write a shorthand to your movie. My first film, that's that Black Panthers movie.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
It was not about a Black Panthers. It was about two former Black Panthers
Right.
who met in 70s Philadelphia, and their story began. And it was a very intimate tale. So as soon as we get into Sundance and we got into competition, the phone started ringing. Everybody wanted to see it. Sony Pictures Classic, you know, not TriStar. What was that thing? Like all the people who were going to be at Sundance were calling, "Can we see it? Can we get a look at it? Is it possible?" And we were like, "No. Everybody." Then we premiered. Very good response. People really enjoyed it. And then the buyers were like, oh, yeah, see. That's what I heard the first word, difficult. It's going to be a difficult film. Because, and then what I later realized, I had to put it together in my mind, is when they heard that there were two former Black Panthers in the film, they were thinking high body count, lots of violence, and killing. Because that's what Black Panthers do, right? They're not trying to help the community. They are just out there errantly killing cops just because, you know, because they both, I don't know what I mean, you know? So I'm going back to your question. I've gone far afield and I apologize. So commercial viability, to know what that means is you should, as part of your work, before you shoot a single frame, when you read the script, you know what the script is about, go and look up the comparable titles and see how those comparable titles have been marketed, how much money they've made. If you don't know about Box Office Mojo, and you're a producer, you behind the times, get with the program. You know, you need to read all the trade press. You need to find out like what's selling, why it's selling, where it's selling, so that when you get to the place where your film is in the can, and now or even before it gets to the can, and you try to raise money, people say, why should I invest in this? You can say, well, you know what, according to these 10 comps right here, it shows that this genre in general will probably return whatever the ROI is, right? So that's important that you know.
And have that language to
And
be.
have it, absolutely, absolutely. Because if you're gonna do a lookbook, do you guys, how many people know what a lookbook in this room is? Okay, so what a lookbook is, it's a marketing material, right? And it has things like the log line, the synopsis, you know, the people attached to, you know, who the actors, it's going to have the directors, all the creatives, who they are, why they are the right people to make this movie, and it's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna give you a sense of what the look and the feel through, you know, photographs is for the film. It's part of what we do as producers to make nothing out of thin air. You know, like we have to, there's a script, which is on a piece of paper. Now you gotta sort of create this entity where you're bringing investors over into this project who wanna know who's in it, while you're trying to get the people who you wanna be in it to wanna know, well, how much money do you have? So you're trying to nudge these two together at all times. So to do that, you need certain skills, A, to sell, and B, when you have a lookbook, suddenly it's a thing.
Absolutely.
Then it's a physical thing you can print off or hold in your hand that people kind of go, oh, well, yeah, okay, this is real. Even though it's no more real than the day before you printed it, but it now has a sense of reality about it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I feel
So
like I
when you
haven't answered
hear,
your question.
so when you hear those comments, oh, difficult, and you've done that research, and you have those comparable numbers, then what's your answer?
Then I say, no, actually, that's not true. And I can point to this. So when I made my first film, everybody was looking, and they're mostly run by you know, not people of color, white people, these distributors. Everyone was looking for the next Precious, because Precious just came out and just blew everybody's socks off. So everyone wants to see the next Precious. Are you the next Precious? All the black films, are you the next Precious? How about you? What do you have? Are you the next Precious? And I'm like, Precious was its own thing. Let her go. She did what she's supposed to do. We talking about over here now, you know what I mean? So backing up a tad, because you asked me about commercial viability, and I don't know if I finished this, and you still haven't asked me, I have to answer that second question. But commercial viability is this slightly intangible thing, except that there are things that you can physically do, and you need to do your research to make sure that you understand how likely is it that this film will be seen in more than 5 theaters around the country, right? Because there's certain genre films that are just only going to be seen in art houses. There's some that won't even see the light of day. There are many Sundance films that they have their premiere there, and then you might catch them on some streaming service down the line, right? Most films do not get a theatrical release, but if you do get a theatrical release, then you have to make sure you understand and research who the distributor is going to be. Like Magno, and of course that depends on who's interested, right? Because if you only have 1 or 2 people who are interested, well, then you probably means you're going to have to do, and they're not the best distributors, you may have to do more work that they should be doing to promote your title. So don't make your film, it's like the actors. Actors, I think our mindset is we graduated, we get an agent, now we can just stop because the interviews and the auditions is going to come on in, and then that's why you're like, well, wait a minute, when is my last audition? No, that don't mean that you got to stop working. And same thing with a producer. Just because you have a distributor, you have to not only oversee them, keep them on task, you have to ask and push and drop, because you know what? You're not the only title they're distributing that year.
Yeah, absolutely.
At all.
Okay.
And you may be one of those 6 titles that they just grabbed for a song and a dance, throw up against the wall, and see what sticks.
Gotcha.
And so they whether or not it has commercial viability, you still need money to promote and advertise your film. And if the distributor isn't doing that, I encourage people, if you can raise enough money to do that as well as make your film, then you're good to go. Because then many distributors were like, oh, you're going to bring $1 million to the table for effort? Oh, well, okay.
Okay,
Maybe
gotcha.
we only have to bring in $500,000, and we suddenly got a $1.5 million budget to actually do some stuff.
Gotcha. And so what, as a producer, when you have the ability to almost break new talent, you know,
Breaking in new talent?
Yeah, and how does that factor into the whole commercial viability and your responsibility to investors versus your responsibility to also, you know, to the art itself?
Yeah, that was the point I forgot to mention earlier. My first 4 films were first or second time feature film directors, writer directors. So I gained a lot of experience in working with first time writer directors, and they are a very different breed than experienced filmmakers. It's just the facts of the matter, right? And early on, I was naive, to be honest, and I thought, saying from that movie? If you build it, they will come, or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
You know, that if you just do a great project, then of course people, it's just going to be successful. No, it's a whole no. That is absolutely, absolutely. That doesn't mean you could do something, a pearl that you are so proud of, and it will never see the light of day if the right people aren't there to do it for. And that means if it's not going to be somebody else, it's going to have to be you. So early on, I was doing titles because I was passionate about them.
Okay.
Now I do a lot more with research that I was talking about, which I did not do the first time when my first film or two came out or was being developed, which is doing deep analysis of what kind of films in this quadrant are performing, who distributed them, who put money in them, who did the advertising if it wasn't a studio or if it wasn't the distributors. You know
But that could spark the passion in another way, because now, you know, hey, this is going to make, you know, this is proven.
Either this genre
Exactly.
is improvement, or you know, or the actor
Exactly.
is a money maker because he or she's been, you know, her movies just tend to make a lot of money, or her movies. So yeah, you know, you're right. It can be. Here's the thing, though, right? Because with distributing, I'm considering starting to do my own distribution.
That
And
was
the reason
my next
why
question.
I'm thinking about doing that is because so much power leaves our hands when we make films and we give it to a distributor, right? Because they essentially own that title for the length of that agreement, which may be 5 years, 7 years, depending on who it is. Excuse me, what paper, and make sure you read that particular number very carefully and you agree, like what is the length of this agreement? But then, so you can't, there's nothing that you can do that is going to fundamentally affect the title per se, because the rights are gone. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't call up news stations, talk to your friends who are broadcasters, or you know, your cousin who has a newspaper in Tuscaloosa or whatever, and get the word out, because that's a part of the distribution process. But if you just sit and wait for the distributor to take care of you, you may be sitting there for quite a while.
Absolutely.
So you got to be proactive. You got to
Gotcha.
be engaged. Because those distributors, even the nicest people you want to meet, just like they seem honest, they seem good, and, you know, and they will sell you. Oh, we believe in this title. This title is, it's a great story. We have great ideas. We're going to do blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you this. If the agreement doesn't say that they're going to spend such and such and such and such amount of money on your film, then they don't have to spend nothing on your film. They
No,
got to spend
absolutely.
15 cents. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They can just go out and make phone calls and say, HBO, you want this movie? Hey, ABC, you want this movie? Okay, you know what I mean? That's it. You know?
So would you recommend that producers maybe not use first-time talent that hasn't been proven in their films?
Well, I can't say the answer is no, because I first of all, I believe that it's important to cultivate new talent.
And I'm talking about actors
Oh,
specifically, yes.
To bring on new actors. young
Yeah,
actors.
to lead a film.
That's real. I just can't quite imagine. Unless the film required a very young star, for which there are very fewer options than grown-up folks, then I would probably say if you can find that spark that you need in that actor, and that actor is completely unknown, then you got to give it a shot, right? You might find some, like when we did my first film, The Night Catches Us, there is a young girl, she's about 10 in the script, and we saw so many girls in Philadelphia and in New York as well, because we shot it in Philly. And it came out of two. One of them had one quality that was amazing that this one didn't, and then this one had this amazing quality that this one didn't. So we were like, now which one do we go with and try to cultivate the weaknesses that they have? We went with one girl. She had never done a feature film, certainly nothing of that size before, and it proved she gave some wonderful performances after editing, because on set, sometimes she was on, sometimes she wasn't. So, you know, if you cut around performances, you can find the right combination. That's what we were able to do. So I would say that if you're doing with new actors, I feel like I can go into a room and watch someone audition and then give them direction, and if they give me what I need based on the direction I give them, then that ups even if they've only done a couple of things.
And I asked that question because of the fact that we're talking about commercial viability.
Yes.
You know, and specifically how much harder it will be as a producer to sell that title with a name attached to it that doesn't
No,
already
right now.
have, exactly.
That's true, and I mean, and that is a reality I'm gonna tell you, who you have in your film. This is why I was talking to somebody not long ago. I said, I wish all the A-list, at least Black, Latino, Asian actors who are in Hollywood, if just once a year they decided that they were going to appear in one indie feature, that could make an entire career
Absolutely.
beginning for that producer, writer, director, and so it would be the getting back.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that they should just do any old thing. They want to read the script and they want to understand who the artists are. But if they did that once a year, just by the fact that Denzel Washington's name, he appears in this film, it's going to get attention.
Absolutely.
It's going to absolutely going to get. It's going to. I can almost guarantee it's going to get distribution, right? Because it's Denzel.
Absolutely.
So you have to weigh that against. And here's the big conundrum that producers and directors, volley over, which is you found this actor. Don't nobody know him from a can of paint, but he acted his ass off. He was so good, so good. But Anthony Mackie is interested in doing this, and people know who Anthony Mackie is for the most part. Which one do you go with? And you never really know whose name is worth something until you ask somebody. I, for example, my third film, I said, we were trying to decide between different actors. And we were like, well, I don't know which one matters. So I called international sales companies and I said, so, between these two names, which carries more weight in your territory? And the answer was quick and easy. It was like this one, by a long shot.
Okay.
And then they said, for example, this is another one. If you can get a movie with Hugh Laurie, you'll make millions. We love Hugh Laurie.
Okay.
You know who Hugh Laurie is? Right? He was in that television show, House. Who knew that Hugh Laurie was like this big mega star overseas? I mean, I
Gotcha.
don't perceive him as being that here. And if I hadn't asked, I would have never even known that.
Okay, gotcha.
So ask people.
Gotcha.
What is this? What is this director worth? What is this actor worth? Ask, and they'll tell you. Well, we don't know who the hell that is. It's not gonna help sell your film.
Absolutely.
And then certain things like internationally, part of the reason that 12 Years a Slave did so well, in my opinion, is that they marketed the film as a Brad Pitt film. And in fact, you saw the poster. It's Brad Pitt, big as day, and this little black man running behind him at the time. And you think, oh, it's a Brad Pitt movie with some little black man up in here, right? But that's how they chose to market it that way.
Okay,
and that's
gotcha.
what's going to happen.
Wasn't in it but about 2 minutes.
Maybe 2.5 minutes. That's right. But that was irrelevant. He was in the movie. And and I do this all the time. It's like, who can we get to come in for 1 or 3 days, who has a name and we can get in this film? Because all you have to do is say that they're in the film, and then they're like, oh, okay, because then that becomes a marketing issue.
Absolutely.
Whether if Brad Pitt is in it, it's just about he can be in there for 40 seconds.
Absolutely. So what's exciting you more when you look at the future of, or just where we are and where we're going in terms of distribution, in terms of technology, in terms of maybe laws that are changing around raising equity for films? What's exciting you more as a producer?
Well, new technology, I am really biting the bit to do some type of virtual reality content. I really want to figure out how to mine that to come up with some really interesting title. A friend of mine told me I should do. You should probably cut the camera off. No, I'm kidding. But my friend said, hey, you know what would make a lot of money? If you did virtual reality porn. Can you imagine how much money that would make? And they're probably right, but who knows? But I do want to do something in virtual reality. I'm really excited about the ever expanding options for distribution. Like, I can't even keep track of all the television channels, let alone television shows, and all the streaming. Everybody is developing content now.
Gotcha.
Hulu and YouTube and of course Netflix and Hulu and say who? PlayStation. Everybody. Oh, and don't even talk about gaming. Okay, yes, gaming. This is huge. Thank you for bringing that up. For what you need to do at the very beginning of your project, always ask yourself, what will the life of this thing be across many different channels? What will the app on the phone look like? Can there be an app on the phone? What kind of merchandising opportunity might this represent? Can this be a game that comes off of this? Can we do a television show based on this movie? Could we do, you need to look and really think creatively about where you can make your money, because just getting it all back through just streaming may not be enough to recoup your investors.
Gotcha. Now, I'm going to open it up to questions. What time is it right now? Can somebody give me a time check? Okay, cool. But one thing I want to say is please no pitching, guys. Don't pitch your personal projects. Now I'm going to open it up to questions. Joe.
I got two questions for you, Ron.
Yes.
You mentioned the lookbook. At what point do the lookbook and the Bible separate?
Well, the Bible is for the director. The lookbook is for the investors. So you're gonna do, what the director will do, well, it depends on which Bible, because there's still a couple of Bibles now that I think about it. You may not even talk about the director's Bible.
Right.
But, yeah, so there are a couple of different, Bibles used from different perspectives and point of views. But let me say this, for lookbook, you wanna have that as early as possible. I like, ideally, if you can get your film packaged, then you should certainly do a lookbook no later than that time, because then you've got the director, you've got the actors, you know maybe who the investors are, certainly whoever the producer is, so that should be done as soon as possible. But sometimes you need to do it before you even have people attached. Right. So I've sometimes gone out with not even a lookbook, even if it's just a one-pager that says pictures of the people we're being considered for different roles, right? And what shows they're in, you know, the log line, the synopsis, the budget, where it's going to shoot, when it's going to shoot, and then who all the key creatives are, right?
Now, we keep going to the film.
Yes.
I write film and television.
Okay.
Let's go back to the television.
Yes.
When you said that you would go to HBO and Showtime and all, and still try to propose your idea or your project.
Yeah, well, I was talking about HBO from the film point of view.
I
but
know, now I'm asking you from a television.
From a television point, and I'm just starting in television, so I'm not the most educated person to give you an answer on this. I am literally pitching my first television show now, and my second one I'm developing. So, but here's what I've been learning, because I've spent a lot of time now in LA, because it is a very different beast than filmmaking. I can tell you that right now. For example, if you're going to, you can make a film if you get the investors to give you money, and then you'll cast it, because you can always cast it. But if you're trying to get a show on television, you need more than just a great concept, sometimes, right? If you're gonna take it all the way to being actually funded. Because what I've learned is, what's really gonna help your television project is who the showrunner is gonna be. Because if it's gonna be an HBO and they're gonna spend, I don't know, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million an episode, and they're gonna give it to Ron, and who is Ron? And why would I give Ron my money? No, you want Shonda, or you want Tom, or you want these other people who they trust can deliver a quality product on time. Who they know. Yeah. Or know of, you know what I mean? They may not necessarily work with them, but there's a reputation. That's big. If you can get a great showrunner on your television project, your life is going to be so much easier. So much easier.
Gotcha.
That makes a big difference. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Tiana?
Hi.
So I have a question. I know you mentioned earlier that you said your first project, you found out that you guys were 30% over the budget.
That's the second.
Oh, second project. How did that issue get resolved?
More money.
And so you had to go out and raise more money, essentially.
That is correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Not the best place to be when you're starting post-production.
Yes, I'm London. I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. Film markets or film festivals, which one would you go to first?
It depends on the content.
Okay.
If you have a film festivals love art house films, artistically lush, beautiful content that no one in Middle America would even pay 15 cents to see, right? But you will show it at all the art houses in New York City and around the country, or you might, depends on how your distributor goes. So if you have an artistic film that you think, then you probably want to submit to Sundance. Now, Sundance is a very interesting beast. I love Sundance. Sundance made my career. My first 4 films were Sundance, so I get that. But a Sundance film has a certain feel to it, right? Almost always it's something novel about it. Either the story has never been told, though the universal theme may be the same, but it's something fresh and new, right? In general, that's true. And if you see, even like the Cannes Film Festival, Some people say if you win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, that is the kiss of death. You ain't gonna make no type of money off of that film, right? But it will be critically acclaimed. Everybody will be writing about it. Ain't nobody buying no tickets. Now, on the other hand, when I went to the American film market a couple of years ago, I went there and there were like massive posters and signage all around for these movies I ain't never heard nothing about, people I don't know nothing about, but they were all genre kind of films. It was like, oh, there's this comedy thing. It was like, oh, it's a horror film, or it's something that can sell quick. You know what I mean? Something that's going to transfer well. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it depends on what the content that you have and the content that you're developing. Most of my films have gone through film festivals, but my last film, Blue Caprice, though it got into the Sundance, and I was not sure it was going to get in because it was relatively commercial, and it got in, but it didn't get into competition. It got into the next festival, where I found more films that had slightly more commercial feel to them or lived, right? So it just depends on what the content is that you're developing, which one you go with.
Okay.
Laura,
Oh, no.
Ron?
So, like, how does the movie get to theaters? Is it like, does like a movie theaters buy the movie, then show it there?
No, movie theaters don't buy movies. The distributors buy the film. And once they bring the film on, they do the distribution. So if they want to do a theatrical release, they have people in-house that will call and schedule this film in as many theaters that they think are appropriate for this film to be done. For a 20 screens for an independent film is not bad, actually. That's pretty good. But then, and if it catches fire, they will grow it and start releasing it to more film, to more venues, because more venues are more interested in it. That's a perfect example of that is Beasts of the Southern Wild. Another great example of that is Get Out. Get Out started with a relatively small number, and then the more money it made, then the more theaters wanted to have it, and then the more money it made, and then it became a big film.
Like, so basically, so the distributors are the people that work, people that promote the movie?
The people who promote the movie?
Those the distributors?
The market, yeah, they do the
Yes.
marketing, yes.
They do the marketing, advertising, and distribution, all the aspects of distribution.
So alright, so for example, like a movie like Fate of the Furious is gonna come out this Friday. Like, basically, is that type kind of movie have a lot of distributors for it?
I don't know who the studio is, but I'm pretty sure it's a studio film, and studio is a very different thing than working with the distributor. Studio films like MGM, Universal, they create their own content, and they have different silos. So this one creates it, this part over here markets it, this part over here advertises it, this part over here has a theatrical. So they're a one-stop shop. Distributors outside of the studio system get content from wherever. They can find it at the film market, they can find it at the festival, you know what I mean? The distributor doesn't make the movies. Studios make the movies, they market it, they sell it, and they advertise it. But in the indie film world, those are all separate, they can be all separate entities.
Oh, but in the studio is all different, basically different sectors.
The studio is all encompassing.
Okay.
They do everything from the financing the film till it finishes its last release on whatever digital format. They do it all.
Kiana?
Other than taking a course in interpersonal and group dynamics, do you have any other advice you can give someone? Because I imagine that being a producer, you have all these people talking to you, all this information coming in, information that has to go out, decisions that have to be made. And the idea of dealing with a tantrum would just be mind-blowing. You know, do you have any suggestions on how people should be able to deal with that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have neither the right answer or a witty response either, because I feel like that's a tough one. Now, I feel like if you have to, number one, you have to learn the skill of having infinite patience, right? If that's not your strength, then you need to learn it quick, because you're gonna eventually, at some point, someone's gonna throw a tantrum. My first film, it was my fellow producer. Call me up, call me everything for the child of God. And I'm hard to come to a boil, but when I get to the boil, it's all hands on deck. And this man pushed, and he called me out of my name, and blah, blah, blah. And then I just snapped. And I was like, you don't know who, anyway, I don't want to say that. But I put him down, and then he was like, he got real quiet. Oh, I'm sorry, man, I shouldn't have done. No, you should not have. So basically, I don't know how to tell you to learn patience or learn to operate in challenging or difficult circumstances where you don't know what's going on. I think part of it is going to be you're going to run into it, and then you just have to keep to remind yourself the very basics of running into any kind of challenging situation, which is to number one, breathe. Stop and breathe. Because it's very easy for us, like, we breathe shallow, and then we don't get enough blood to the brain, and then you can't think clearly. You need to just remain calm. Your thing is, people tell me all the time, you know, right, you just feel like you're always cool as a cucumber. I said, I bet you I do look like that. But up in here, there's a whole other thing going on. I'm not devoid of emotions. Like, if you're gonna push all my buttons, I may choose to not go off on you because I'm not really, that's gonna get in the way of my getting this job done. But sometimes I need to show you angry black man. And where that time is, I'm gonna show you angry black man. You
Interesting.
just gotta know when to play which card, right? And I think that's all about experience. And the more life experience you have, the more, you're gonna learn that no matter what you do. Whenever you get to be 50, you're gonna have a lot more experience about all this stuff than you have today. And you'll be a better producer for it.
When people ask me about producing, I tell them it's a role that you do in service. And I think that in line with where you're talking about learning patience, if you understand that producing is something that you do in service to the story,
Yes.
in service to the director, in service to the costume designer, everyone there, then I think that it helps
That's a
to
good
have
point.
that type of patience
That's a very good point.
in service to the actors, so, and it's not a type of thing where, most people can't name the producer. They know the things that they love. Oh, I love Fast and Furious, et cetera. Who produced that? I don't know. So, but, there's other things that you get. For me, there's other things that I get out of it. Aside from being able
What do you get?
sitting in the theater and like the energy in the theater, people don't know the mistakes. You can sit there and you see it on the screen. You see like, oh, the actor didn't show up that day on time, and so therefore we only had 10 minutes to shoot this scene, and as a result, blah, blah, blah. You see that, but the audience, they don't see that, and that's what I get out of it. I get the emotion and the reaction.
I did not know that was something that I was going to get until I sat. I remember it's clear as day. I was sitting in the venue for the premiere of my first film, Night Catches Us, and I remember sitting there, and it was like we were in a nice venue because we were in a competition, so there were like hundreds of people in the room. And as the opening credits began, I literally, my throat started closing.
Yeah.
Because that's what I now understood to be when you get choked up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like someone is choked because the emotion was so great that I felt like we made a movie.
Yeah.
All the bullshit and the sleepless hours and firing people and then temper tantrums and the power went out and all that stuff. But we got a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
eyes were tearing, my throat closed up.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was gonna happen
Yeah.
until I was sitting right there and it just rushed over me.
Yeah. Also, I like to be in charge, so.
Yo, that don't hurt. Oh, this is something I should tell you about real quick.
Okay.
Like being in charge. So one of my employees asked me, she said, because I asked her to produce this project, she said, well, I need you to, I feel like they don't really respect me, and I know you said that I'm the producer of the show, but they always look to you, so can you let them know, that, I'm the producer? And I was like, actually, no. I've given you the mantra, I've given you the title, I've given you the duty. It's your responsibility to let them know what you do, how things are supposed to go, because you're the producer. I can tell them until the blue in the face, oh, it's her, and if they still keep coming at me, that's not on them, that's on you, because you did not exert your input, exert the power that you have. It has to come from within, and you got to
get your respect.
right. And they don't just come to you because you're pretty or you think you're cute or whatever. You know what I mean? You have to. You have to take it. You have to own it.
But you also have to be willing to accept responsibility as well.
No, and everything stops at your door. No matter, you did nothing at all wrong. I didn't run 30% over budget, but who had to raise the rest of that money? That would be me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of runs right into the question I wanted to ask you. Like, when you come into a project, how do we? Sometimes there's several producers on the film, or executive producers,
That's right.
or regular producers. Like, do they come do they come, like, is there executive producer that's in charge of all producers?
Well, it really depends on the project, right? Because in general, producers run the show. Executive producers, in my experience, they can be anything from literally writing a check and then showing up at the premiere, or they want to see dailies, or they want, and the bottom line in terms of what they are entitled to is all about what's in the agreement, right? Because the agreement will state who, of all the people involved in this film, has the final cut approval, right? Of course the director wants it, of course the producer wants it, of course the investors want it. But the question of who actually gets it should be all ironed out before you shoot a single frame. That has to be in writing and very clear, because that fight, you don't have time for that fight when you're in production. You don't have time for that fight when you're in post-production. You have time for that before you even shoot, before you even go into pre-production. That's when that kind of stuff is resolved. So there's producers and executive producers, when I tell you that they vary, there's some producers who literally are a producer because they gave money to the film and they said, I'll give you this money if you give me a credit, right? Credits are a chip, they are a negotiation chip, right? You can give people money, or you can give them credit, or you can give them both, right? So it's up to you as producers to determine how much of the back end you want to give to whom, right? Because there's only a certain number of points, right? There's 100 points, and you got to figure out who's going to get them. And then it's up to you to decide who gets what credit. I tend to not be that dogged about credits, except for producer. You want an associate producer credit? If you do something good for me, I will make you an associate producer. And if you give me the right amount of money, I have a list. $50,000, you get, co-producer. $125,000, you get, executive producer. And I break them down, and I know exactly. So if you tell me how much you want to invest, I'll tell you what exactly I'll get, and I'll have it written out, printed out, so you can see it.
Yeah.
And then you decide.
And the flip side of that is you got to understand, if you're getting that credit, what that value is to you and your career, and why or why not you shouldn't accept it.
I just have one question. Once you found the story,
Yes.
who's next at the table with you in order to?
Who's the next one?
Who's next at the table as you build a team to make the film?
Well, I've often worked with both writer-directors, so they're often the same person so far, but I'm moving away from that now. So assuming the writer and director are the first things that I want to do. So for me, I have a script, for example, now written by Joe Morton, beautiful script. So I got the writer, he's not going to direct it. So now I'm out to directors is the first thing. Now, I could go out and package it with talent, agents or with casting directors, but then that takes the power away from the director, who might have some insight or ideas about who he or she thinks she wants to play these different roles. So in general, I like to give it, because as you said, I'm in service to the director and the director's vision of the story as I understand it. So in my order, it goes the writer, then the director, then the packaging, which may include either, if you have direct connects, calling people on the phone, hey, Wendell Pierce, you want to be in this movie? Cool, all right, I'll let you know when it's going to happen. Or, oh, hi, Billy Hawkins, listen, I need you to cast this film for me. Or, hi, Ted at CAA, I'm really interested in your client, blah, 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 right? And then, after that, much later down the line, not much, but it depends, because some directors have the crew that they work with, right? This is who my DP is. This DP does all of my films. So if you want me, you gotta go with this DP. Okay, well that's what you gotta do. But if there is not that, then you have to package all the rest of the crew. And once you have all your crew and cast, then you're kind of, you're in a really good place. Then you have to deal with issues like the city and the state and what you're gonna do about tax credits and where you're gonna shoot it, and how much you're gonna get back, and all that kind of stuff.
Let's take it back even to the investor part. Like,
Yes.
where do you find these mythical people?
Okay.
Do you just
That's the thing.
on the elevator?
You find them wherever you can find them, is what I say. I don't
Okay.
care if you're in the gym, at the golf course, in the line at Starbucks. My new way of networking is that I don't even call it networking anymore.
Okay.
I go to events to meet people. That's all I do. And I go there and I meet somebody, and if I find that either you have produced or you've invested or you might be this, or I just judge that you have an interest in, black culture, you have an interest in LGBTQ, and I have something that aligns in my slate that I think might appeal to you, then I might drop that in and say, oh, we're working on this project, blah, blah, blah. And if they light up, then, have another conversation. If they don't, then fine, move on to something else. The short answer is that there is no Rolodex where all the people who give money to film are you can buy that. There's no, first of all, producers do not want to share that kind of information because that's their money ticket, right? That's the people they go to.
That's their wealth.
That's their wealth. They ain't trying to say, here, go talk to these 10 people because, you know, they gave me money. They might give you money too. No, right? So you have to go and create your own networks. Here's where your networks exist. They exist in your church, whatever college you went to, whatever graduate school program you went to, whatever volunteer organization you work on, whatever boards you sit on. Boards are really a great place to find potential investors because people on boards often have to bring a certain amount of money to the table, $10,000, in some cases $100,000. So those people obviously have disposable income and they are supporting this organization by writing that check. So they might be predisposed to doing something artistic, which might be your film, right? So you just gotta be keeping your eyes open all the time. When you hear of a networking opportunity and you're like, I don't know if I mentioned this when I spoke to you. No, it was a talk I did last week with the PGA. I was saying that my thing is that when I get home and I'm tired, I had a long day, full of meetings, conference calls, I'm tired of talking. I don't want to say two more words. My feet hurt and I'm hungry. Now, I'm supposed to be at this party downtown in an hour and it takes 20 minutes to get there. Now, my first thought is, I could order from Lucky Burgers and get here in 15. No, that ain't gonna work out time-wise. But at some point, I will tell you, every time I say, you know what, Ron, go upstairs, take a shower, grab a sports coat, and go downtown and go to that event, I meet someone every time that is gonna be helpful to me in some way. Not that I went out there to, hey, because people smell that hunger. Hey, listen, can I talk to you? Oh, hey, it's like, and then and their natural response is to recoil from that, right? So my approach is, hello, how are you? What's going on in your world? Whatever just sort of breaks the ice. And then the organic, I may not ask them about investing for a month, 6 months, a year, but I will engage them. And to get investors, you have to engage them. Not unlike what we were talking about for this organization, right? You have to engage them and put them on your mailing list if you don't have a mailing list for your newsletter, if you have a newsletter. You know, send them an errant email every once in a while because you talked with them and you found out they love dogs. And here is the AKC kennel winner that year is the same type of breed of dog that they showed you on their phone. Oh, I thought of your dog when I saw this, Ted, so I just want to send this to you, you know? Those kind of things, and you have to massage these relationships. You have to reach out to them. Don't make it be a burden. Give them something. Every time you reach out to them, give them something so that you're not always asking something. So that when you get to an ask, they will be like, well, you know, he's given me this, he's offered me that, he's told me this. Now, I will be more predisposed to listening to what you might have to say that might imply me doing something for you.
Right. I'm listening to all that. That sounds great, right? How do you present your project and to the investor with the idea of them getting their money back? How do you propose them getting their money back? What do you tell them?
Well, that's why you do. That's why you know the spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
You asked the question. That's how you're gonna do it. You're gonna say, "Here's how." That's the truth, though. You gotta say, "This is where comps come in." These 10 films that were in the same genre, that had the same quality level of cast, B, C, D, A, whatever, in general made this kind of money. So there's no guarantee. I tell people all the time, if you want to have an absolute great return on your investment, don't give me your money. I got a guy out of Seattle that's works for Ameriprise. He can help you get your portfolio together. But if you want to be involved in making a change, and I'm trying to change the world one film at a time, and you want to have the extra benefits and adages that you get from producing a film or funding a film, which is like you go to parties and you go to premieres and you meet nice people, you meet celebrities, and you know, and you get to travel. That should be part of the experience. It's almost rarely ever is it just about the money.
I made a mistake, Ron. Let's back up. How do you present your idea for a television project and them getting the return on their investment from the television project?
Well, like I said, you have to be the same model of understanding what the comps are. If you have a talk show, I'm doing a talk show right now, I'm pitching. It's about singers, right? So I have to go out and do all this research about what are all the television shows that are featuring singers, including The Voice, including American Idol, including, and then the ones like Hall and Oates, or somebody has one. I forgot how many there are. They're like there's which made way more than I thought, and I'm so glad that I did that, because had I not, I wouldn't have known how to position this product relative to what's already out there, right? Because I think it's Daryl Hall and Oates. They have these amazing musicians who come in on their show and they talk and they jam in their living room and blah 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 blah. Huh?
It's a great show.
Right? And so I didn't know that show even existed. I've never heard of it. I didn't even see it. So, but I've heard really great things about it. But if I hadn't done my research, I would have known about that, because I was going to pitch this project that it's all about the entertainment component of it. When in point of fact, no, what makes my show different from everybody else is the educational component of it. So that's why this project is fresh and new and different, and not like all these other 15 shows about music. So if you don't do your research, you won't know how to position your television show, right?
You just cleared up something with something I'm doing. It's
Lord.
fresh.
Oh, okay, good. And know
Laura?
why it's fresh.
Yeah, I know.
You said, in the sense that you have to, the whole networking.
Yes.
If you are a personality that very much, I'm gonna do everything by myself, how do you, like, is there a course in learning these skills? Because it's a skill set to know how to, network with people and develop that. Because it is a skill that develops over time.
I don't know if that's exactly true. Well, it's a skill in this regard. I think that what it is less, as soon as you hear networking, as soon as I hear networking, I think, okay, I gotta go into a room, a whole bunch of strangers, people I don't know, and I gotta sell them on why they wanna give me their money. No. No, I had to go all the way back to the beginning and say, I'm in this room really to meet interesting people. I might meet someone who might be helpful to me, or I might meet someone who I may be helpful for. One of the best things I do in my job is I connect people that ain't got nothing to do with my project. Oh, Ted, I think you should talk to, because Joe's got this project over here that you might be interested in, because I know that what kind of stories you tell, he's telling that kind of story. I will connect those two, and maybe they'll do finance or whatever. And if every one of us in this room do that, and you know what I love, and I know what you love, and I know what she loves and he loves, then I can say, oh, Susanna's got this really interesting project, about planes, whatever, right? And I know the David, here's a perfect example, right? This Joe Morton piece, right? Joe Morton, it's about this man, I'm trying to go too far afield. Let me just say, he's an aviator. He's the first black fighter pilot in the world. He was born in the 1890s in the South, migrated to Europe, married a countess, had a couple of kids, learned a musical instrument, became a jazz musician, then a jazz club owner, then joined the Army, then joined the Air Force, became the first black fighter pilot, got France's highest medal of honor, and then ended up his days as an elevator operator in the NBC building up the street. Now, we pitched this, we called up John Singleton's reps, because we would say, hey, would John Singleton like to direct this film? Within 5 minutes, he was like, no. So then they said, well, I have another director who might be interested. Would you consider David Madden? And I'm like,
Hell yeah.
right? Now, I had two responses immediately. David Madden! Whoa, do you know how that, immediately I'm thinking, these doors will open because it's a David Madden film. And then I'm like, wait a minute, David Madden is white.
And he's dead too.
And he was, no, he's still living. David Madden's living. Oh, no, he's living. Well, because if not, that man sitting in front of me was a real close guy.
David Madden that just did the movie with Al Pacino.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
No, he did, because I'm in the movie.
I'm telling you for a fact, David Madden, unless he died in the last couple of days, trust me.
They spread a bad rumor.
They do that all the
Because
time.
I was mourning him too.
Oh, well, I got news for you. I got some good news for you, brother. The man is living.
I'm glad to hear that.
So my point was that he was really interested in this project. Not because it was an African American man who had overcome all these odds and made his name, but because he was an aviator. And he is a huge fan of aviation. In fact, he was going to spend this summer writing a book about aviation. When this came along, he said, well, I would consider doing that instead of writing this book. So then that again, the duplicitous of thought, I was like, well, that's pretty amazing. I get David Mamet here. But on the other hand, what kind of story is he going to tell? Because also, David Mamet, which is where you've got to ask these questions, David Mamet wanted to do a page 1 rewrite. You can assure you that my screenwriter was like, he wants to do a what? Well, then I guess I need to be able to have, approval over that. And the David Mamet's reps will tell you, there is no approval over David Mamet's work. David Mamet writes what David Mamet writes, and then David Mamet shoots what David Mamet shoots. End of story. So now I'm trying to kind of nudge them closer together, kind of like, well, why don't we just get two artists in the room to talk about the visionary and blah, 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 hoping they might, you know what I mean? Just to make it happen. This is, again, creating something out of absolutely nothing. But the point is that how would I have known that man was interested in aviation? I didn't know that. But that's what drew him to that. So when you go into a room, you listen. You really listen to people. And you talk to them. You ask them about, so what do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies? And you listen. And when you hear something that kind of goes, okay, something about dogs. Well, I've got this animated feature about dogs. I wonder if they might be interested in that. But you don't necessarily, you don't have to necessarily say anything about it right now. Just lob that. Pay attention. And then when you go home, you write down, because you have the cards, always, when you go home from doing it, preferably you should do it in the room where it happens. That was part of your joke. But it's true. I just love that musical, Hamilton. But anyway, you get the card, and what you do, what I do, is if I have a pen, and I try to always remember, sometimes I don't, is I write down where I met this person, some idea of what they look like, because when I get home, I've done this dozens of times before I woke up. I come home from a film festival and I have 200 cards. I don't know who the hell these people are. I don't know where I met them. It was at the party, was it at a screening, was it in a line to get the ticket? I don't know. So I can call them up and say, hi, I don't remember who you are. Can you tell me where we met? You're not gonna wanna do that. So you wanna keep track of that stuff as it happens. Like, just take a moment, say, it's a really good time. I'm gonna use the restroom. It's good talking with you. And then you can hear your pen, you go, oh, yeah, Ted, red hair, mustache, met him at the IFP party. He's interested in dogs. Put it away. Later on, you put it in your computer, and then when you go, yeah, I met somebody who was interested in dogs. Who was that? Then you bring it up and search Outlook. Oh, there are the people who have dogs in their profile. You know what I mean?
Abu?
I'm not the oldest person in here, so being a young
No, you're not the only person. Let me assure you.
And Abu is a cinematographer, an aspiring cinematographer.
Ah, very cool.
You're welcome.
So being a young cinematographer, TV director, filmmaker, coming up in today's world, it's very easy to get, hands on cameras and, social media and that. But I want to know, how do you get, producers and investors involved in your films? Because it's easy to say, like you told him, go through the process, but being young, people look kind of, you're starting fresh. But you believe, you're really well-rounded and talented, you feel that you can do better than what you're doing now if you get shot. How you go about doing
Well, let me tell you, what speaks for itself is your work. So you can talk to people blue in the face, but if you don't have some work that they can look at, a short or 2 or 3 or a feature film that says this is the kind of work that I do, it's just talk. No one's gonna care about what you do.
But I had a friend of mine. He owns a red camera like that, and he's okay as a DP. Not to take anything away from him, but I know somebody. You gotta be honest with your friends. So I know another person who owns, I don't know, a Rebel camera, but he's a very great, well-rounded cinematographer. He can make a movie out of anything. I'm not friends too, so it's he'll get hired because he has a red camera versus him having a Rebel camera. But it's not really about the camera. But most people just nowadays look at the camera. Oh, you look at the camera.
Sometimes that's true. I would never, ever hire a director on what they have. Ever. In fact, I bought my own damn digital camera, so that if push came to shut up, I can use my own camera. So I would never hire a DP based on the kind of equipment they have. I would much rather pay the fee to rent the camera and have a DP who knew what the hell she was doing and could get the film caught in a way that makes sense and makes it beautiful.
Okay, how do you get writers to pen down ideas that you have, for a project?
Well, you can always pick up the phone and call the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, and say, so, I've got this idea about lions in Africa. And I'm just wondering, do you have any clients that I might want to hire, assuming you want to hire? Now, and I would say that if you want to get writers, you want to have some money. If you're going from just the thought, I can't tell you how many times people walk up to me in the gym, on the bus, in the subway, at the subway line, you're a producer, listen, I've got this great idea that I know is gonna be a big, big, big hit. And they start pitching me, right? And I go, no, let them go for a while. I'm like, nah, let me clear it for a second. I was like, so, is there a script? No. I was hoping that maybe, you could get that written and then, then it'll be all good. I'm like, well, here's the reality of the situation. I get hundreds of scripts every year that I have to figure out through assessment and getting coverage, which ones rise to the top. I don't have time to write your screenplay. If you can't get the money together or you can't learn screenwriting, there's nothing I can do for you. There ain't nothing I can do for you. Now, if I was running, I don't know, had millions of dollars in the bank and can just write checks, I might think this is really, you are an amazing, the men who drive the cars, the taxis at Sundance, almost every single one of them pitched me a project. And the reason why they pitched me a project is because, and the reason why they were there to drive cars is because they knew they were going to be people like me who were producers and directors and people who work in studios, and they wanted to get me to basically take on their work. I'm not that producer for you, or whoever. I need you to either have a script in hand, and I don't want to see the first draft of it either. I don't want to see the first thing you wrote down and then say, here, let me send it to Ron. Because let me tell you, that does you no service either, because I get a lot of scripts that come from agents, and those girls are tight. They are really good. And if yours is okay, trust me when I tell you, it would be, I won't even send you a thank you note, because I don't have time to do that. I'm like the people who do casting. You hear about the job if they offer it to you. If they didn't want to cast you, then you never hear from them again until the next time they ask you to come in and audition. Does that answer?
8:20? Okay, gotcha. Tiana?
Can I ask two quick questions? Or
Sure.
So my first quick question, I'm curious, how did that non-paid PA get fired?
Well, two things. One, she would show up late. Very bad thing. Very bad. If I got there at 5 o'clock in the morning, then you should be there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then during the day, where's Patricia? I don't know. I saw her over at she was a crafty earlier. Where is she? Where is she? And then she showed up somewhere. I'm like, well, where were you? Oh, I'm sorry, I had an emergency. No, this is the emergency. This film is the emergency. So, but that's not over. If you got a bad attitude, gone. If you're making my life difficult in any way, shape, or form, unless I need you more than the trouble that you are, you're gonna be out of there.
My second question, you mentioned WGA and that triggered something in me. There might be a strike. So how would that affect you?
Oof, Jesus, Lord have mercy. Well, it wouldn't affect me immediately because I've got the projects in my queue, enough projects to keep me busy for the next couple of years. But it would affect me if I had an idea of like this brilliant idea and I wanted a screenwriter to write this screenplay, or I optioned a book and I need someone to take this book and turn it into a screenplay. I gotta hire a writer, right? And then if the writers are on strike, well, I can't, sorry, I gotta wait until they finish or find someone who's not in the union.
You can negotiate that deal now, right, before the strike.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the last time there was a strike, we actually benefited as independent producers because there were actors who were not working, who were looking for a project. And so as producers, it would be a very, very good thing to get great talent that's sitting at home looking for something to do.
Right. But again, the counter of that is that, yeah, that's true, because yeah, that's right, because they're not writing film, they're not writing television, they're not writing serials, they're not writing for Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, Roku, nobody else.
The actors are sitting at home.
What are they gonna do?
Work on your project.
Hello.
Okay, let's take one last question. Anybody got last questions, or we can, any last?
Ron,
London?
What are you looking for, really?
Okay, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. That's a great question. And if somebody would like for you to consider their project, how would that go about? How would you go about? I know.
Oh, well, if you're talking about content, I have on my website a submissions page, and that's where you would pitch your project. I will tell you that the further along your project is, the higher up the consideration ladder you will go. So if you just have this screenplay and you've never written a screenplay before, and it may or may not be in good shape, and you don't have any money, and you don't have a director, and you don't have, then guess what? That's gonna fall below the one that has, we got 1 million of the 3 million we have, here's the director that's attached, here are the actors who are attached, now would you come on and talk to me about this? Is this gonna get higher consideration? Anytime you send your stuff, wherever you send your stuff, you have to realize you are not the only game in town. You are not the only one sending whatever you're sending to whoever you're sending it to, whether it be film festivals, casting directors, agents, studios, networks. There are hundreds of people reaching out, same time you are. So the question is, what makes your project so special?
You answered that already.
Okay.
And so there's a submission on your page, right? You
There's
said
a
on your
submissions page on my
website.
website.
And so how do you go about going through those submissions? Did you
I
just
have a
answer that?
development director. No, I didn't say how I go about going through them. I have a development director.
Okay.
And she gets coverage for all the screenplays.
Okay.
And based on the coverage, if they don't float to the top and are recommended, then that's the end of the line for that, for the consideration of that project. If on the other hand, it says, oh, this thing seems to have legs based on the coverage, then she will read it, then I will, and if it passes her, then I'll read it. And then if it passes past me, then I'll take a meeting with someone to talk about it.
And are there certain things that you're looking for in
Great
terms of,
story.
in terms of genres or in terms
Oh,
of?
yeah. I'm at this moment, I just
Okay.
happen to be more interested in genre, elevated genre, sci-fi,
What kind of genre?
thriller,
Elevator, you said?
elevated.
Okay.
That's basically, I didn't know that term either until about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Y'all ever heard that term, elevated genre?
Is that like elevated music?
It's like what?
Elevated music.
No, it's basically intelligent horror, right?
Intelligent horror?
Horror.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it could be a horror too. I don't know. But basically, it's not the slasher films. There's lots of blood.
Okay.
It's basically it's kind of walks the line between thriller and horror.
Like Get Out, would that be considered?
Get Out is absolutely elevated
Okay.
genre.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. So I'm looking at elevate. If I had seen and read Get Out, if it had crossed my desk, I can't tell you what.
My
I
desk.
stepped on so many necks to get to that project. Lord Jesus. In fact, I actually reached out to his reps. I'm trying to get a meeting with him when I'm out in LA this month. But anyway, elevated genre, horror, sci-fi, thrillers.
How about television?
Television, for television, I'm not really doing much. I'm doing television thought ideas that I'm developing. I'm not really doing much accepting submissions for I accept them, but it's unlikely that I would pursue it because I've got my own projects that I'm pushing.
What if you got a rare one?
If I got a real one,
No, rare.
rare one. Well, rare that could make it happen as long as it's a great concept. And if it's scripted, I need to see the pilot. I need to see the 10 or 18 arc of the season. I need to know your vision for the film, or the TV show. I need to know all that.
Gotcha.
London?
Ron, when you're acquiring, when you're meeting investors, and once you secure that investor, what is your acquisition process to bring the money in?
Well, the first thing you need to do is have a contract. So you should all have an entertainment lawyer on, not necessarily speed dial, but certainly in your Rolodex. Because after you pitch them and they go, I'm in, let's do this, great. Then you need to sit down and draw up the documents to get them to sign so that they are, there's no locked in because they can kind of walk out, but you know what I mean? But that basically codifies the relationship so that they know, and you know exactly what you expect of them, when you expect it of them. Like I needed 30 days before principal photography begins. Principal photography is set for July of 2018. Da 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 da.
Gotcha.
So before you have pitch an idea or script, should you have it, not patent, but copyright first?
I always suggest that you copyright any material as soon as possible. And I always send, before I send my scripts out to anyone, I also, depending on who it is, I often will ask people to sign NDAs.
Any if you guys don't have any last questions, I have one last question. So how many hours a day are you working?
It varies, but usually my days go from 10:30 in the morning till about 2 a.m.
And did you, 10:30 in the morning, 2 a.m., and did you set some type of goal and milestones for yourself for the year? And if so, how are you?
That's funny you should say that because next week we're actually sitting down and having all hands on deck for a strategy meeting about where the company, because the company's been around since '09. And now that we've got this body of work behind us, what's next in store for us? What is our strategy for moving ahead in the next 10 years? So in about a week, I'll have the beginnings of the answer to that question.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ron.
You're welcome.
Thank you.